There are many films that leave you feeling empty inside, a sense of uncertainty that lingers long after the credits. In the opening moment of The Gift, the film reinforces this point with its desolate atmosphere. I don't feel trapped watching it, I feel much like the characters, settled into a wide open neighbourhood, peaceful and undisturbed, but somehow with a sense of absence. Joel Edgerton made a supremely subversive directorial debut that manages to make the most calm and friendly environments seem like a nightmare. The visuals initially convey the loving relationship between Simon and Robin, but the way the mise-en-scene and cinematography work together to imply a sense of emotional distance between the couple gradually establishes the conflict driving them apart. The composition maintains the desolation surrounding Simon and Robin as they are continuously framed within wide spaces that make them seem distant from their unfamiliar environment. This shot, for example, begins with deep focus and switches to shallow depth of field to frame Gordo watching from a distance to establish the film's very Hitchcockian sense of tension. In fact, the camera is always framed predominantly distant from its characters in a very voyeuristic way, as if we're stalking on their lives. This couple are always exposed, they look like outsiders, whether it be the minimalist decoration that accentuates them or the large windows that surround their house. The couple are largely oblivious to how vulnerable they are in this seemingly innocuous town inhabited by friendly people, including Gordo.
Hey, thank you for the lovely gift. That was very sweet, but I'm sure that you spoke to Simon about that.
It's only when Simon's conflict with Gordo intensifies does the film take a tonal shift towards darkness and isolation. Suddenly, the couple's lives aren't fueled by mild discontent, but rather paranoia and this unnerving sense of danger. But we experience this transition through the perspective of Robin, who has become trapped and even alienated from those around her, especially Simon, who seems to be unconsciously controlling her. His dominance within the household is recognized but isn't forced. It's organically developed as her emotions and insecurities come second place to his.
I'll take an apology for that.
Oh, this is not about an apology. Simon, this is about you and me. You have to do this for us, because if you don't, at least try to fix this. If you don't...
Their love still exists, but her freedom feels restricted, especially with Simon's insistence to start a family, which Robin is accepting of, but never seems satisfied with the idea. In fact, when the tension in their relationship is addressed, Simon places the blame on Gordo, which is relatively true, but for very distinct reasons. It's made apparent that Gordo is seeking retribution for Simon's bullying and the distressing lies that led Gordo to nearly being murdered by his own father for allegedly being homosexual, resulting in Gordo's traumatized childhood and the arrest of his father. Gordo's intent is to emotionally manipulate the couple against each other. He turns Robin against Simon as she becomes gradually disillusioned by Simon's increasingly sinister behaviour. Earlier in the film, Simon tells Robin that while everyone changed, Gordo stayed the same, yet later, while blaming Gordo for being stuck in a moment feeling sorry for himself, the reality becomes clear that Simon hasn't changed either.
You're a bully. You were then, and you still are now.
He's still a bully, and this becomes realised in his pressure towards his wife, cheating Danny out of a job through fabrication, and forcing Gordo to accept an insincere apology. In fact, Simon's school friend Greg summarises the entire point of the conflict.
I mean, it's amazing how an idea can take a hold and really bring a person down.
That line best encapsulates the thematics of the film. There is this emphasis on how looks can be deceiving, but fundamentally, we have this natural tendency to generalize assumptions without knowing the full picture. We see this in both Simon and Gordo's performances. Jason Bateman does make us sympathetic of Simon initially, but there is a constant stress that begins to overwhelm his character as the film progresses, and Simon's attempts to maintain his mature composure gradually dissipate. It's subtly conveyed, while Joel Edgerton's Gordo comes off as naturally quirky, eccentric, socially awkward, and even a little dim-witted, but he's not a sociopath by any stretch of the imagination, despite the way Simon and Robin begin to perceive him. He might be going through a midlife crisis considering his obsession with high school and attempts to look younger with the dyed hair and earring. But even Robin's lack of career progression and Simon's jealousy for working with young billionaires and wanting to get to the top before he's too old carries this lingering feeling of regret of not having a more fulfilling life.
You're done with the past. The past is not done with you.
What? What do you mean by that?
Gordo, however, is playing a character, so his oddities are deliberate, and the couple's growing concern towards him are part of his meticulous strategy to devolve the couple's relationship. In fact, this line insinuates Gordo's plan.
But, I believe that a lot of the good could come from the bad,
I hear you.
If you put the right faith behind it. Not to bring religion into it, God, but just to say that the bad things, they can be a gift.
He embeds cryptic religious metaphors into some of his notion, calling on the idea that bad things can help redeem or destroy a person who is of guilt, which in this case is Simon. In this story, however, Simon omits guilt. He never blames himself for anything, even after losing his job, his wife, and left with the burden of not knowing if it's his child or Gordo's. Simon never seeks that redemption, and the film concludes with Gordo watching to see how Simon reacts to the gift that Gordo has given him. Since Simon remains in denial of his mistakes, at least where the audience last see him, Gordo walks away, taking off his arm sling to imply that he is now free of his own burden, which calls upon two biblical verses Gordo leaves on Simon's car. Luke chapter 3 verse 9 states that the axe is already at the root of the trees, and every tree that does not produce good fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire. In one interpretation, it's a judgment call in which unfruitful individuals will be cast aside, while those more deserving will prevail, which reflects the outcome of the events. Then in Psalms chapter 7 verse 15 states that whoever digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit they have made, a verse which is again very much indicative of Simon's actions. When Gordo reveals his true cunningness, he leaves Simon with the consequences of poisoning minds by using the same action against him. Gordo poisons the minds of both Simon and Robin. He uses his injuries and humbleness to get Robin to sympathize with him, while psychologically scarring Simon over whose baby it is. It's all in the eyes, he says, but as the film switches to Simon's point of view, he never attains an answer and is left completely distraught. Just to reinforce this confusion, notice how Simon never has an opportunity to handle the baby, and when looking for answers, his eyes are directed from the baby onto his wife. In my eyes, Gordo didn't rape her. It's out of character, and he's clearly intelligent enough to cover his tracks, let alone and risk embedding his DNA onto Robin. With Simon left as a broken man, Gordo leaves Robin with a false sense of assurance that the baby is Gordo's to make her feel more content with her child. Again, using Simon's constant lies to Gordo's benefit, the previous verse of Psalm 7 states that whoever is pregnant with evil conceives trouble and gives birth to disillusionment. The disillusionment that Robin felt towards Simon is negated by this uncertainty. Robin doesn't feel she carries the burden of Simon's failures, but rather the humility of Gordo.